What's happening, guys? Today I'm going to give you 6 different terms or things that can be really confusing with Amazon FBA. These are things I wish I knew in the beginning because it just would have made things so much easier. Number 1 is logos and word marks. Cannot tell you how many people get this wrong, myself included. But actually every brand has a couple of elements. All of those elements make up a logo in full. This part here is the word mark. Then you can see we also have a brand mark, which is sometimes also called an icon. And then you have a slogan. But that is actually the makeup of a brand. Often people call the icon or the brand mark, they call that the logo. But in fact, this whole thing's a logo and those are the specified parts. What's really important for you is the word mark. The reason that's the most important is that's the one you want to trademark for Amazon. Another thing that's kind of cool to know is if you make it all capitals in your trademark application, that's going to protect it in all forms and fonts or all its variants. So that's what I would recommend. Another reason you want to choose the word mark to trademark is because that's the one least prone to change. You're probably going to get that word.com. You might get it on social handles. It's not something you're going to want to change frequently, whereas the icon or the brand mark, you might change that up a bit. Additionally, any graphic like the icon is going to gain a natural copyright upon its creation as well. So it has a certain level of protection when you create it. Number 2 and related is TM or R symbols. Now, trademark symbols, again, often confused by people. And this can actually be to your benefit, because if a non-savvy seller thinks that TM means registered trademark, it's going to give you kind of more protection, perceived protection, because they're not going to try copy your brand name. But here's what they actually mean. The TM symbol stands for intent to use as my trademark. So I'm intending to use this as my trademark. And I always recommend using that TM symbol even before you've applied for your trademark. If you're putting your brand onto a product now, put a little TM next to it until you get your full registered trademark, then you can change over. But that little TM can be very handy. It's not only good at warding off counterfeiters, but it also gives increased perceived value to your customers who also might not know the difference. The R symbol, that stands for registered trademark, and you can only use this one once you actually have a fully trademarked brand name. So that's the one you're going to want to switch over to only once your application is fully approved, processed and approved, and you have the trademark in your hands. At that point, you can just change it up, change the design file of your brand name, send that to the supplier and say, hey, on reorders, use this one with the encircled R next to your brand name. Number 3, the buy box. Now this one is also a lesser known concept, and it's something every Amazon seller has to understand. It's very important. The buy box is actually this one-click checkout, and it's present on every single listing. And the seller who wins the buy box is obviously going to win most of the sales. Anytime you shop on Amazon, what do you use? You use the one-click checkout to buy the product. So majority of sales happen through the buy box, and the buy box winner obviously gets majority of sales. So what do I mean by the buy box winner? Doesn't that mean you can have multiple sellers on a listing? Yes, that's exactly what it means. Amazon is actually the owner of your listing, and they allow anyone to come sell on that listing if they have that exact product. And so it's your job to make it really difficult for anyone else to have that exact product. And that's why I always promote very unique products. Like if you accessorize or have custom packaging, it's going to be almost impossible for someone to replicate that. And then you also have a registered trademark, which gives you even more kind of legal backing. Now, if you see this little button here below the buy box, it says have one to sell. That's the button where Amazon's telling people, hey, have one to sell, you can come sell on this listing. You can apply to sell on this listing and also list your product here. And then here below the buy box, you can also see where it says how many people are actually selling on that listing. If you click through to that, you're going to see multiple sellers in there with different prices and sometimes different delivery or shipping times, and customers can choose between them. But the majority of customers use that one-click checkout, and the buy box is what you always want to have. So how do you ensure you always retain the buy box? Well, Amazon's going to choose between the sellers on that listing. Hopefully it's only you if you've designed your product correctly, but they do choose between sellers based on the lowest price because they want to give customers the better deal. They also choose FBA options over FBM because it's faster shipping for the customer. And then account health. If you have good metrics on your account health, that's going to give you a better chance of someone with poor metrics. Now, if you're doing unique private label items, this probably shouldn't be an issue. But even if you're the only seller on the listing, you can actually lose the buy box. It's happened to me. So another thing you want to avoid at all cost is erratic price movement. Let's say you bump the price $10 and your sales slow down a bit. Amazon's going to say, hey, you're overcharging customers now. We're going to take the buy box away from you. Remember, it's all automated and driven by algorithm. So any price changes, really small and over a little bit of time. Sometimes what I do is if I raise the price a bit, I go super aggressive with PPC for more visibility, more chances of sales, because I want to show Amazon, hey, this price level's fine. We're still making sales here. So that's just something to keep in mind. Do not move that price too much, because if you lose the buy box, you also lose the right to run PPC ads, which is the bigger problem. So very important, just keep an eye on that, but that's what the buy box is. And number 4 is ranking. This word is thrown around a lot. It's actually an abbreviation of keyword ranking. That's the full term, and that's how it should actually be used all of the time to avoid confusion. So what is keyword ranking? It is how high up on the results pages for a keyword your listing shows. The higher up you show, the better your keyword ranking. And it's important that it's called keyword ranking because your ranking, or how high up you show on results, is going to be different on different keywords depending on how well your listing indexes for those keywords or how many sales you've made for those keywords. And that's why you might see your offer near the top of page 1 for one keyword, but at the bottom of page 3 for another keyword. So how can you improve your ranking, your keyword ranking? Number 1 is to include that keyword on your listing or improve the placement of that keyword on your listing. Generally, it follows the higher up that keyword on your listing, title being the highest, bullet second highest. The higher up, the more Amazon's robots are going to index you for that keyword and say, hey, this listing's relevant for this keyword. Someone types this in, let's show it up higher. And the second way to improve keyword ranking is to make sales for that keyword. So that might involve running some more aggressive PPC ads on that keyword, but any sales, whether through your organic or sponsored listing for that keyword, is going to raise your organic listings ranking. It's going to make you show up higher with your organic listing on that keyword. Now, sometimes your listing might not be indexed for a certain keyword, and you can do this by typing into Amazon your ASIN and then the keyword and search. And if your product does not come up, it doesn't populate, that means you're not indexed for that keyword and you might want to move it around, raise it up on the listing. Something I found works well is I make the first back end keyword, it's called search terms, under keywords on the back end of Seller Central like this. I make the first term in there that keyword, and sometimes that will help just jumpstart the robots to catch that keyword and start indexing us for that. Number 5 is ACoS or ACoS, and this stands for Advertising Cost of Sales. What it represents is the proportion of your sales from ads that you are spending on making those sales. So if your ACoS is 30%, it means if you've made $100 worth of sales through ads, that you're spending $30 of that on making those sales. Obviously, the lower the better. If you can spend $1 to make 100 worth of sales, that's much better than spending $30 to make 100 in sales. But where this becomes so critical is profit margin, and you'll know your own profit margin. But here's an example. Let's say your profit margin is 40% on your product. So you sell your product through your organic listing, you will make 40% on each sale. But ACoS is only relevant to sales made through ads. I cannot stress this enough. ACoS is only relevant to the sales you've made through an ad. But let's say you sell this product through an ad and you have an ACoS of 30%. What you want to do then is take your initial 40% and you minus 30%. And now you know, okay, every time I sell this product on that keyword through an ad, I am making a 10% profit margin, because you take your profit margin minus ACoS and you have your new profit margin through ads. And then that calculation is relevant across the board. So you can do it for specific keywords you're running ads on, or you can take your overall ACoS and figure out what's my profit margin through ads in general overall based on my average ACoS. But again guys, ACoS only sells through ads. So if you sell a wood carving kit and you have an organic listing on page 1 and a sponsored listing top of page 1, and you make 10 sales through the organic listing, all of those are going to be at 40% profit margin, if that's your profit margin. And then the 10 sales you make through the sponsored listing, those are going to be at an adjusted profit margin. If your ACoS is 30% there, then those sales, those 10 through the sponsored listing only, will be at 10% profit margin, not 40%. And number 6, here we're going to talk about tacos, but not the food type. This is your total ACoS, your total advertising cost of sale. And this is an important metric to know, and it's hardly ever spoken about. But as we just went through, ACoS itself only has to do with sales through ads. But what if you want to know, what is my ad spend as a percentage of my total revenue? Out of everything I'm making, how much am I actually spending on ads to make that? And what you want to do is you're going to take your total ad spend. So let's say you choose a certain month. Take your total ad spend for that month divided by your total revenue, your total sales for that month, and times it by 100. So for example, let's say you made sales of $7,000 over a 2-week period, and within that 2-week period you spent $500 on ads. That was your total ad spend. 500 divided by 7,000 times 100 gives us 7.14%. So a 7% ACoS or ACoS. It tells you out of every $100 you're making, $7 is going towards ads. Also an important number that you do want to know. At the end of the day, how much is PPC costing me? Because that obviously impacts your profit margin. In general, you can expect your tacos to be between 6% and 12%. 12% being quite high. 6-7% being a good, healthy, optimized ad spend. And where this can also help you is, let's say you know your overall profit before considering ads, because of course we don't know what that exact expense is going to be ahead of time. But let's say your overall profit margin is 40% and you have a tacos of 7%. You can take 40% minus 7% and you know your net profit margin is 33%. And that again is why I always recommend you aim for a 40% margin on products, not 33%. Aim for 40% in your research, because it's going to give you that little bit of leeway for things like ad spend. And number 7 is to click that like button, subscribe below, turn on notifications. That way you're not going to miss an upload. But guys, I hope this helped you. I hope it cleared up some of these terms and it's just a lot more easy for you to navigate. I know that the ACoS and the TACoS are also lesser known, definitely lesser understood. Definitely want to know those for your ultimate profitability. Comment below which of these helped you the most. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any other questions or content suggestions, also comment those below and I'll get to those as soon as I can. But as always, I hope you guys are making some awesome progress and I'll see you in the next video.